Uh, Ambassadors, dear colleagues, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to IES Gender Diversity Initiatives C-Suite Dialogue. Special welcome to Ambassador Madde Shenet, Madam Ambassador. Very nice to see you again. And also the colleagues from the C3 International. Very nice to see them also at this occasion. Now, gender diversity or diversity in general is written with capital letters in the management of the IES guidebook. I can tell you that. And in fact, some 5 years ago, uh, 2016 January, I remember very well when I have announced the modernization of the IEA. There were three important pillars. One of them was opening the doors of the IEA to emerging world, and we did an excellent job there, as it is agreed by everybody. Second, making the IEA a clean energy transition hub, and this is also going extremely well. And third, to make some changes in terms of our staff management and HR practices. And the key issue there for me was to increase the number of women in our staff, in the IES staff members. Now, we have, of course, in the last, we are a data-driven organization. We believe in numbers rather than what is said, what is done. So when we look at the numbers, I see that the IEA has done a lot in the last 5 years, and because we want to lead by example. Two areas I can mention, two numbers I want to mention here. 5 years ago, the senior management level, 16% of the senior management were women, and today it reached to 38%, from 16% to 38%. And this is one number. The second, in the total IEA, there was a slight advancement of the men, or slight number of men more than women in the IEA. And now we are, DJ, if I'm not wrong, we are balanced now in the current situation. So why we are doing this? We are doing it for two reasons. One, to be fair. Fairness is very important here, and that everybody needs to get the chances, the position they deserve. And when we look at the work life beyond IEA, beyond energy, women are disadvantaged at many occasions. So we are trying to do our bit in order to balance this out. The second is that I have seen myself that when the women are in the decision-making process, we are making better decisions, different perspectives, different views, and it increases. It helps to increase the productivity of our decision-making system. So therefore, we are seeing more and more women in our task force, in our IES higher level decision making process, and I hope to see more. I hope to see more. We are making a lot of efforts to see to attract more women, both in terms of expert levels and management levels. But we again look at always the meritocracy. It's a key issue for us. Within that context, I am sure there are many women who will be soon joining the IEA, and you will hear soon about from us in that direction. What we do also is that, again, as I said, we believe in numbers. We look at the number of women in the energy world, in the IEA and others, to show the world if there is a progress, and what are the reasons of this progress. If there is no progress, what are the reasons of not having a progress in the entire energy world. If I was the head of a environmental organization, my life would be much easier, because the pool for energy is mainly man dominated. It's a legacy issue. But still, going from 16% to 38% in the senior management, and again, I am saying more to come, there is I believe, considerable progress. We were heartened a lot with our ministers in the year 2017, and we had a side event. 2019, we had another side event, and our 2019 communique, we are very happy to see an encouragement from our member countries in the communique to support our move in terms of increasing share of women in our task force at all levels. And we are very happy that today we have leaders from different parts of the energy sector. When you look at traditionally, oil and gas sector receives less interest from women compared to other parts, such as, for example, renewables. But even within the renewables, the number of women, the share of women in the renewables industry is only 30s and 38%, which is still very low. So we will be doing everything that the woman gets the position in the IEA what they deserve, with their sweat, with their intelligence, and with their hard work. And I am so thankful to my colleagues in the IEA who are leading this work, but also I am thankful to Canadian government, a leader in this area, both at home and also internationally, and supporting our activities here. With this, I would like to stop and turn to Madam Ambassador for her remarks, please. Madam Ambassador, can I turn to you, please?
Well, thank you, Dr. Barrow, and good afternoon, everyone. And it is clearly a great pleasure to hear your introduction and set the table very strongly to this topic that is so important. I'm honored to be here representing the Government of Canada. And thank you again for your kind word regarding the leadership of Canada. And speaking about such an important objective to put gender diversity and inclusion at the heart of the clean energy transition. This is an issue that's very close to my heart. For years, I've been engaged on different forums to encourage young women to work in the energy sector as well as in digital technology environment. This is a journey like I would start 30 years ago that I've been doing that, and progress is there, to your point, Dr. Barrow, but it is slow. And I also have coach and mentor women to make it happen. And sometimes we discover, and often more and more we discover, that there are great women who can have great leadership into this sector. And I'm very pleased to see one of our largest hydroelectric organization who have a CEO and a chair as a woman. So clearly talents are there and it can happen. As the co-chair of the OECD Friends of Gender Equality Initiative at OECD, clearly this is something that is a topic of importance for mainstreaming everything we do at OECD, especially in the current time with the pandemic, where we know how the pandemic influence and impact significantly the woman. So it is crucial that we all recognize the economic, environmental, and social benefits that gender equality delivers. And yes, you said it, Diversity and bringing women at the leadership of an organization creates more productivity, more results, more value. So there is no doubt science show that now. These benefits are more important than ever as we work towards our recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. We are facing the fallout from a COVID-driven recession that's been especially hard on underrepresented groups, including women. According to the OECD, women are among those at greater risk of joblessness and poverty. They generally have less secure, unskilled jobs and are highly represented in industries most affected by the crisis. That's why each of us has to show even more leadership if we are to advance the meaningful participation of women in the workforce. Studies have repeatedly shown that diversity brings better financial results. I insist on that, as you said, Dr. Barrow. Yet, energy remains one of the least gender balanced sector in the global economy, with women making up just 22% of the traditional energy workforce and 35% of the clean energy workforce. If we want to meet our global clean energy goals, this must change. The government of Canada is definitely committed to ensuring that the clean energy transition is equitable and inclusive. Canada, along with Sweden and Italy, jointly leads the Clean Energy Education and Empowerment, the C3E International Initiative, a joint initiative between the IEA and the Clean Energy Ministerial. C3E International works to advance gender equality in clean energy globally through a variety of avenues, including data collection and ambassadors and mentorship programs, and awards program to recognize individuals and organizations paving the way in the Equal by 30 campaign. Canada is proud to lead both the awards program and the Equal by 30 campaign, which seeks voluntary commitments by both public and private sector organizations to work towards equal pay, equal leadership, and equal opportunities for women in the energy sector by 2030. Since the campaign's launch in 2018, over 150 organizations and governments from around the world have signed on, all united under a common understanding that gender equality and advancing a low carbon future must go hand in hand. To ensure that we are making the most impact, the Government of Canada has developed a reporting framework under Equal by 30 for all signatories to measure their progress and to create a baseline of gender disaggregated data for energy sector. We are doing this in collaboration with Diversio, a Canadian female-founded and led company that builds diversity and inclusion frameworks in multiple sectors globally. I'm excited to hear more from Diversio during the panel, as they are already really at the forefront of the innovative use of data collection and technology solutions to build more inclusive workplace. The reporting framework is an important next phase for Equal by 30 and the energy sector, because as we know, what gets measured gets done. Canada's leadership in this area shouldn't come as a surprise, as Prime Minister Trudeau has always made feminism a cornerstone of domestic and foreign policy. And just this past Monday, Canada's first female Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, announced Canada's fall economic statement, highlighting the need for a feminist recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the ways the Government of Canada is doing this is through a 50-30 challenge, which is a call to action to all business to increase representation on corporate boards. The goal is to achieve gender parity, 50%, and significant representations, 30% of other underrepresented groups, including racialized Canadians, Indigenous people, people with disabilities, and members of the LGBTQ2 communities. because building successful and innovative businesses means inviting all voices to the decision-making table. Canada also champions gender equality abroad through our feminist foreign policy and our equality fund, which addresses the funding gap faced by women's organizations, as well as our work with international organizations, including the G7, the G20, the United Nations, and of course, the International Energy Agency. Finally, the Government of Canada will be investing $4.7 billion in measures to support the low carbon energy sector, from accessible home energy retrofits for Canadian consumers to zero emission vehicle infrastructure. We are doing our part to advance a competitive, greener, and inclusive economy. But we have a long way to go. And that means our leadership is needed more than ever to help inspire and drive change, and to make the case that gender equality is critical to achieving our economic and environmental goals. This is so important. So thank you. And I look forward to hearing from today's industry's leaders on practical solutions that drive diversity and inclusion in the sector. We need to work together to accelerate progress. So thank you. Mrs. Nicholson, I turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and to the Executive Director. Very good reminders that we've made some progress. We understand the moral imperative, the political commitment is there, and even the strategic imperatives around productivity, competitiveness, and financial performance. We've got a growing awareness of that, but we need some solutions on how to accelerate that progress. And I'm delighted, I'm Donna Jean Nicholson, the Deputy of the Communications and Digital Office at the International Energy Agency, to introduce you to our C-suite leaders who are joining us from all over the world. Albia Ghanum, the CEO of the Brazilian Wind Energy Association. Laura McGee from Canada, the founder and CEO of Diversio. We're also joined by Lu Fang, the Senior Engineer of the Electrical Engineering Institute at the China Academy of Science, the Secretary General for the PV Committee of the China Green Supply Chain Alliance, and also a C3E International China Ambassador. And Joel Koos, thank you. You've brought some gender balance to our panel this afternoon. Our special advisor at the International Energy Agency, who brings a long career in industry and a long stint at Total. Thank you very much, Joel. So let's just get to it. Fang, perhaps you can start. You've built a very esteemed career in electrical engineering. What helped you to thrive as a woman in the energy sector? I'm sorry, Fang, you're on mute still.
Okay, so now you can hear me, right? Yes, it's Fang from China, and I'm worked for the Electrical Engineering Institute of Chinese Academy of Science, and I'm a China C3 ambassador. And also I worked for the renewable energy, especially for the PV, about 21 years. So today I'm very glad and very happy to share my opinion with all the audience today. So I have a different opinion about this question. The first, I think, is to choose a rising sun industry correctly, because my career is related to the sun, and my career life from the very beginning is endowed with the energy and the colorful. There is a proverb in China saying, men are afraid of choosing the wrong job, while women are afraid of choosing the wrong man. So in the past in China, the workplace belongs to men and the woman only stay at home. But now the country has changed fundamentally. Female receive the education in school, choose their own career paths, and obtain the equal opportunity and the fair treatment. Female also need to choose the right job and the right man. So I feel lucky that I chose the rising sun job of the renewable energy after my graduation. Then the second, there is a big enough platform of the China renewable energy for more successful opportunity. China has a firmly decision for the sustainable development path through renewable energy to reply climate change, energy transition, and the reform. By 2019, the proposed of the China renewable energy power generation have accounted about 27.8%, of which PV and wind energy counted about 10% with 200 gigawatt installation. That becomes the largest in the world. Meanwhile, the technology developed rapidly with the continued cost decrease. And by 2020, the average feed-in the tariff of the PV and wind power both low to 5 cents US dollar per kilowatt hour, and will realize the totally grid parity the next year. So in the past 10 years, a period of the accelerated development of the China's renewable energy happens to be the exactly the 10 years which marked the reversing of the country's energy carbon emission. China has promised to reach the carbon emission peak by 2030 and realized the dream of the carbon neutral with the world together by 2060. So under such national efforts, there's a big enough platform of the engaged in the career of the renewable energy for individuals. So therefore, they are the fair opportunity to success. And the third, the open competition facilitates female participation. In China's energy sector, especially PV, has operated through the complete open competition, including the technical and the concepts without barriers and discrimination. So that's why there is a PV efficiency record breaking from time to time. And the number shows it's very interesting. 2 years ago in 2018, the proportion of the female application of the China National Natural Science Foundation YOUNG program climbed to the 50%, while the proportion of the female which got the wind project reached about 41%. So you can see the female scientists leading the state R&D project, and including myself, I lead the state R&D project of the PV Recycle launched by the Ministry of Science and Technology. So you can also see such the PV Female Intelligence Alliance platform to strengthen the woman force, as well as PV Female Forum to share the insight. Such an open environment has a strong help the woman participation and the success. And the fourth, the most important is love. I love renewable energy industry and are proud of it. In the past 20 or so years, I have done only one thing, and I will do these things continuously. So as a career woman, I was at the beginning not satisfied to be an office lady. You know, Chinese PV industry began in the remote unelectrification area. So I go there to do the investigations such as area 20 years ago. Like other men engineers at those remote PV station sites, I tried all the hardship and difficulties, but obtained the value experience. More important, apart from the on-site work on real PV equipment, those global, national travels and the service experience, the book I read, the path I worked, the PV I met, and the event I encountered. So all serve to shaping my worldview and value enable me to enjoy the open vision and benefit from it. And I think at the finally, the last one, I need to thanks to my family, all the way support and stay with me. So that's all, and turn back.
Thank you, Fang. It's lovely to hear your story. You've gone all the way from the field to a leadership position in such a dynamic industry and so important for clean energy transitions. Albia, I'm interested in your insights now. I know that you're a renewables leader with plenty of firsts on your CV, first CEO, first markets director, as well as the first chief economist. Is there a level playing field for women and men starting their careers in Latin America in the energy sector?
First of all, good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here in this very important discussion. And I'd like to say that in the last 2 years in Brazil, we are into this discussion, and I have been introducing this discussion in my company with my members. And it's important to understand that the gender and diversity in general is a very important subject, and the companies understand very well that they need diversity if they want to succeed in the longer run. It is a general discussion, and the studies shows that the diversity increases the ability of adaptation in face of changing environments. Companies see the need to attract different talents with different profiles, and these talents to feel attractive. They need to see that they can grow in the company. When the energy industry was mainly in engineer field, we faced the challenge of lack of diversity in the entry level because STEAM career mainly attract men. We know that we see an effort in society, mainly in the last 5 to 10 years, to remove these stereotypes and the second generation business, so that girls can relate easily with STEAM and careers from early age. Of course, we are going for big changes, and we have a challenge, but I believe that digitalization process can increase and can allow and the social scientists to STEAM, and is necessary for industry. So going for your question, I think that Latin America is the whole world, and the companies are aware to the need to live diversity. Then I say it's gender, and the guarantee long-term sustainable, and of the need to attract this diverse talent pool. Then in this way, I think it's important to mention some initiatives that we have in Brazil in energy sector. We have several grassroots movements that focus on increasing the sense of belonging of a diverse pool and professionals in the energy sector. I have some slides that I'd like to ask someone to help to put two or three slides that I'd like to point to some initiatives that we have. As I said, we got a very high speed in the last 2 years. And when you're talking about the energy sector, we have this, yes, this, please, we can go the next. Thank you. So the first one is, in this year, I joined the Global Ambassador for Brazil, the Women in the Global Leadership Program. It is a very important initiative around the world, and this partnership is addressed gender and diversity in context of the wind market. Then I got in this group, I entered this group, and we are discussing and this subject, and you have programs like mentor programs. After this is I have doing and works with a lot of initiatives. Then I'd like to go to the next slide. The next slide, we have a very recently initiatives. The first one is about Sim Elas Existem. It's Yes, They Are, is an initiative from two women that works in Ministry of Mines and Energy, and they prepare a list with names of people, with women that could go for a high level in energy sector. This is initiative. After this, we discuss and then start other initiatives like Mulheres em Energia. Mulheres em Energia start with a group, a WhatsApp group. Now we have a page in LinkedIn, and we discussed subjects in energy, but we discussed how to bring and how to inspire women in energy sector. There are other initiatives that works together with Sim Elas Existem, is Empodere-se, is Empower Yourself. It is a mentor program for young women that want to go energy sector. And this is, we are so proud with these programs because there are a lot of interest in this discussion, and we have been increasing barrier discussion. And then there are other uses, women engineer that women, this is a podcast about engineer subject, and we discussed career and the other subjects in energy. And the next one, please. And there are other important initiatives. Could you? Yes, thank you. This one is it is an initiative. It is from it is a personal initiative with other two friends. We will launch this program in January, and it will be a platform that we will develop a hub of projects and ideas for energy sector. This is this platform. The name is Energia da Transformação. It is energy transformation. That they are international relations, a hub of projects and ideas, developing and training, and the good practice repository. This is initiative starts, we thought about this because we noticed that there are a large interest of our companies in energy to include the diversity and the gender in their programs, in their strategy, and we didn't have a place where we can find this kind of programs and initiatives, and we intend to develop programs with this platform. We intend to launch this in the next January. I'd like you to go for the last slide, please. There are some actions in your companies, companies that invest in energy, made in wind, that they have conducive senses to build the picture of situation and the work in initiatives and the set goals. Create of diversity committee, and the creative committee is a very important initiative, and the launch of diversity policy. And our point here is that it's not a company. We only discuss the subject, but they need to have a program. They need to put some goals to pursue. Then promotion of the STEM international internal companies and social medias, encouraging the discussion. Support projects for minoria and for women and communities, and the partnership with NGO specializing, and the private companies, investors in energy, we noticed that here in Brazil and Latin America, they are looking for a place where they can discuss it and they can develop these initiatives. We are going in very good progress. We believe that the way is not easy. We need to work hard, but I believe that we are going in very good way, then you will get good results. Then in general, I'd like to put this point for start. Thank you.
Thank you, Albia. It's very interesting to hear that high demand for practical tools that companies need to support their workforce planning. I guess, Laura, this is where you come in from Diversio. You bring that experience from multiple sectors. I'm interested in your kind of reflections on diversity and inclusion in the energy sector, and what is the model of Diversio, excuse me, for helping companies sort of draw down to the issues that are going to shift the dial.
Yeah, good morning. So thank you so much for having me. It's been so interesting to hear perspectives from around the world on, the importance of diversity in the energy sector, and also, what organizations are doing to move it forward. And so a couple of reflections as I listen to the other panelists. I think number one is the energy sector absolutely has a long way to go, but I would say you're not alone. So certainly we see, the numbers across representation and the numbers on inclusion, which I'll get to in a moment, actually put energy kind of middle of the pack. And so I think there's a lot that can be learned from sectors that have made progress in the last, 10, 20 years, as well as ones who are at the same starting point. And so one example that may be a surprise is the representation numbers from the beginning of the talent pipeline to the end of the pipeline to executive roles in asset management is actually lower than the representation numbers in the energy sector. And what we've seen, though, is that in that particular industry, the approach that a lot of organizations have taken, which involves data, tracking, micro-targeting, has allowed them to make really quick, rapid changes that have ultimately accelerated the progress of women. And now we have, for example, one of the biggest banks in the world, Citibank, just appointed a new female CEO. RBS over in the UK is led by Alison Rose. And so I think there is quite a bit that can be learned from other industries and how organizations, big organizations, have really moved the needle. And so what do I mean by that? Maybe really quickly, what we do as an organization, as a company, we are a technology company. We have a platform that uses artificial intelligence to really drill down on employee experience, identify areas of bias, areas of exclusion, areas that are preventing women and other minorities from advancing, and really micro-target those problems with really specific and tactical interventions. And so at a very high level, imagine a scorecard of your organization. So imagine by role, by department, by demographic, identifying, where are the specific buckets of problem, and then matching those problems with any number of 1,200, again, specific solutions or programs that could alleviate that challenge. And so to make it real, what we find in the energy sector, again, not unlike many other sectors, things like safe work. So, safety from harassment, both physical, mental, sexual. We find a lot of challenges around culture. So feeling like women's opinions are really sought out and valued by their teams. And I think the third one that comes as a bit of a surprise, but appears with some frequency, is access to networks. So when you come to the workplace, do you have a mentor? Do you have a sponsor? Do you have a leader in the organization who's really advocating for you and saying, look, this person has potential. They could be the next, site leader. They could be the next CEO. And so what our platform does is we effectively analyze free text employee feedback that we typically collect through surveys. We process that data against a set of inclusion metrics. So there are 5 of them at a high level, 27 underneath them. We identify the biggest source of pain, so the most acute problems for underrepresented groups. And then it's actually quite straightforward. We match that company with solutions. And so ultimately what we see happen is companies are able to really start treating diversity and inclusion like any other key performance indicator in their company. They can report out on metrics to the CEO, which again, I think, Ambassador, you said it perfectly earlier in the call, what gets measured gets done. And ultimately we see, when there's accountability, when there's a data-centric and a data-driven approach, really that is what moves the needle. And maybe one thing I'll end on, again, the importance of diversity has never been, more acute than in this moment as we recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're actually quite optimistic about the energy sector. And I think we see, absolutely a moment in time, a great opportunity. Over in Canada, as mentioned earlier, there's been a ton of importance placed on the clean transition. And the energy sector really has been front and center in terms of jobs that will have an impact, a real meaningful impact, not only on, your immediate surroundings, but really on the entire planet. And we're seeing that millennials and the next generation, they're looking for that impact. Priorities around what employees are looking for as they graduate university have absolutely shifted. And meaning is more important than ever. And this sector, we're seeing, time and again, people are drawn to it. And so the missing link here is the second thing that millennials and Gen Z are looking for is an inclusive workplace. And, as we're seeing, jobs are becoming, more and more, let's say, present in people's lives. And so it's increasingly important that they feel like they belong. And they feel like it's an environment where they are welcomed, they're supported. And that's where we think the energy sector has the biggest opportunity, is to work together through initiatives like Equal by 30, really commit to a data-driven approach, really commit to that accountability, and implement those micro cultural changes that will start to create that more inclusive environment that will help women and minorities feel like, look, this is a place I want to be every day. I see a future, I have chosen the right job, hopefully also chosen the right man or woman or partner, and ultimately, start to equalize the industry.
Thanks, Laura. I think that really picks up on some themes we're seeing, that there is so much opportunity, but there are some real pain points. And I think, Joel, maybe you could jump in now around what are your thoughts about how the energy industry can really grasp these opportunities, and what are the barriers holding them back from doing that?
Thank you, Donna Jean. And thank you, everybody else, for these comments. It's been a wonderful discussion so far. In the energy industry today, improving gender diversity, it requires unrelenting long-term efforts at all levels and across a wide swath of the companies. It really is a worldwide challenge. It requires focused efforts within the companies to identify the barriers confronting the recruitment of women and the development of their careers. Specifically, and going back to what Madame Ambassador said, companies must set quantitative objectives and target dates and commit to them in their annual reports to ensure that these engagements are trackable. Total, for one, has done this and marked its progress regularly. Coming out of university, the availability of women in key fields remains a serious problem. We can hire at least as many women in a field as is their proportion in graduating classes. And we can try to do better by ensuring that the attractiveness of the companies in the fields is as best as it can be. Women represent 40 to 50% of graduating classes in finance and business, but only 30 to 35% of classes in engineering. In Total, the share of women entering the company from universities represents these proportions. All students graduating from a given university in a given field are offered the same salary. Recruiting women, experienced women from the job market, on the other hand, can be more aggressive due to the competition for experience and talent, combined with the competition for women to attract women into the companies. In the long term, the share of women in engineering and technical degrees needs to increase. Companies like Total work with the universities through their alumni and through appropriate associations, such as in France at Bouge, to boost the interest in these fields. They work with students at the university level, but also in high schools. Beyond working with the schools and universities, there's a need for deep cultural change in our societies that favor women in technical and operational jobs. Within companies, the share of women in the workforce is stratified, notably by age. The same share of women should be found throughout the hierarchy in a company. However, that percentage declines as one moves up through the hierarchy. Technical jobs can require operational and international experience for career development. In the short term, companies are taking a more active approach to promoting mobility of women in these technical roles to prepare them for senior management. It's essential that women are promoted and represented on management teams at in these fields. Women are recruited into technical fields, but they require a more attentive career development. Women ready for management roles must be identified well before the age of 35. That's quite different from men. Managing the development of women's careers in technical fields requires exposing them to operational and international experiences very early in their careers before family developments can make this more complicated. In the medium term, companies can work on accompanying and mentoring women in their jobs. Total works on this by trying to change mindsets within the company. A particular focus is on ensuring the visibility of women in their roles. If they are unseen, they will be unheard. As indicated by Laura McGee, access to networks raises the visibility of women in their roles. This also requires breaking stereotypes and preferences for specific universities or schools in specific professions. Finally, the process is both a top-down and a bottom-up approach. The initiative and the imperative must come from the top of the company, but nothing can be done unless middle management is fully on board. Middle management are best placed to identify, support, and promote women in their day-to-day roles. Benchmarking is important for any company. Energy companies can't benchmark only amongst themselves. They must also benchmark more broadly against companies in the economy in general. This is more representative of the objectives that they must attain. As Laura McGee said, energy companies are not alone. As such, they can lead by setting an example more broadly for the economy, particularly given their role and weight within the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. I think you really set out a very clear data-driven approach to these barriers. Laura, I might come back to you in a minute just to get your views on some of the misconceptions that companies might go through as they progress. But Elvia, did you want to react to that in terms of your members?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is we noticed that we had some impact of this. Is actually we noticed this impact in two ways. Women that need to stay home and take care of kids and they work at the same time. and we noticed that it is very hard. But when you talk about the energy sector in specific and the renewable sector, it's a new model. It's a new kind of business. Then in this perspective, we think that it's good, and you can see that you have a challenge, but your way is better, because renewable is a modern sector. Then when you compare the traditional sector and the numbers, the companies with renewables, they just start with other mindset, and they can increase this culture is. And I noticed that in the last 10 years, I have been working on, in energy sector with renewable. Then the company start and just start with the other mindset.
Thanks, Elvia. And Laura, maybe you could share some of your insights from Diversio's work in terms of misconceptions as we go along this journey.
Yeah, so I guess I'll reiterate, in our experience, really the importance of data and understanding what tactically is going on in your company on the ground. I think, Joel, you put it so well when you said, look, it's not just about your top level commitment. It's what's the relationship, what's the dynamic between middle managers and employees who are coming up the ranks. And so maybe one anecdote, what we often find is this topic of diversity and inclusion, it's, front page news with some frequency. There always seems to be a new challenge or form of bias or barrier. And what we often see is companies that don't take a data-driven approach, they tend to get a bit distracted by what happens to be in the news. And they end up solving problems that aren't really their particular challenge. It's just what happens to kind of have caught the CEO's attention that day. And so one example is one organization we worked with. We went in because the CEO was absolutely convinced that they had a harassment problem. And he really thought, they could not retain women past the middle manager level. And he thought there must be some sexual harassment going on that's driving them out. And so they were prepared to spend about $1 million, which was a lot of money for this size of company, on an anti-harassment program, which is, commendable. But when we went in and we analyzed employee data, we found by far the biggest problem is that the women didn't have mentors and they didn't have champions in the organization who were putting them up for promotion. And so what happened is when those promotion cycles came around, there was no one at the table who was saying, I worked with this person, I gave her a step up opportunity, I invited her out for dinner with clients, she really helped close that deal. And so in, quote, a meritocracy, which is what they felt they had, the women weren't getting a fair shot. And so we ultimately went in and said, look, this is your real problem. The solution is actually not an anti-harassment program. The solution is a really concerted and measurable mentorship program where you pair your senior leaders, most of whom were men, with junior women to really sponsor their careers and make sure that they had those opportunities. And ultimately, the result was the next promotion cycle, quicker than they would have expected. They promoted twice as many women in that single cycle as they ever had before. And their harassment scores remained very low. They were low to begin with, and they really started to see some of that cultural shift. So I think, at the end of the day, there's no silver bullet because there's no common, single problem that affects all companies. But we do find that, kind of myth busting and understanding, what is your diagnostic, what is your baseline, can really help drive that change.
Thank you, Laura. I think we're starting to touch on a very important issue, obviously, around stereotypes and mindsets and how we really drive that cultural change. Fang, I think it's over to you for this last question, because I think you've got a really good example of change in the renewables industry in China. Wanted your views now on how leaders in the energy sector go about making smart decisions. Fang, I'm sorry, you're on mute still. Fang, I'm sorry, you're still on mute.
So now it's okay?
That's much better. Thank you.
Thank you. So when we talked about these issues, I have the 2 points I want to share with the all of you. So first, I think the first opinion is there is nothing to do with the gender, but capability. You know, I will soon begin the special research project. The project is the China Distributed Renewable Energy Application and Promotion, Monitoring and Evaluation Project. And this project is sponsored by the Chinese government and the World Bank and the Global Environment Foundation. So one of the contents of the project is to research female participation and the contribution. So I will share.
I think we've lost Fang.
Reply that in the human resource recruitment, they put the capability, experience, and value to the organization as the priority factors rather than the gender. So another point I want to share you is this sentence. It's about the only beauty can save the world. Just show in the slide. This point is mentioned by the Dostoevsky in his book about the ideas. So I believe that the renewable energy is beautiful, and the females engaged in renewable energy is more beautiful. So that, you know, this beauty will save the world. And in the future, the PV plus application scenarios such as BIPV, building integrated PV, transportation, agriculture, intelligent city and families. So we'll also enable the PV to enter all the household customer market and our daily life. So the character of the pliable from the female energy worker makes the people industry and products no longer cold, but full of the warmness, and they more easier to promote into the public. So next slide. Thank you. Yes, next slide. Thank you. Yes. So for example, I have found the the alliance called the RE100 ladies. So that means the renewable energy 100% ladies in China. So next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, you can find that all the candidates selected all the excellent females scientists, company leader, and the media, and the third part. So you know, all the ladies will be the ambassadors to promote the PV application in the very beautiful way, not only effective but full of the joy. So this is my share information with all of you. So turn back again. Thank you.
Thank you, Fang. They certainly look like a powerful 100. I'd just like to thank all of our C-suite leaders now for your time and generosity and your personal insights, as well as your strategic insights on the change that we need to drive. Now I'll hand over to Mekti.
panel. So thank you for that. My name is Mechthild. I'm the Director for Sustainability, but I'm also heading the task force for gender and diversity within the IEA, and Fatih asked me to do so, and it's only possible with a lot of very active members. So I was very grateful for the discussion we have set up today. Let me just share a few insights, and I think that was a couple of things mentioned, starting with Ambassador Madeleine Jeanette, and I think not only Canada is a leader, and I think leadership to drive that mindset is needed, but also personal leadership. So you as an ambassador here in Paris, being with us today, being the co-chair of Friends of Gender in the OECD group, and many other activities, I think the leadership from the top to drive this agenda is really appreciated and necessary. Then we heard also, for example, from Lin Fang, that we need role models. We need people, women in the gender debate to drive, and your own impressive story showed us also in the clean energy sector, this is possible. And it's remarkable also in your country, the role you have taken. So role models are playing a real big role. Another example we heard from Latin America, Albia, and thanks for that, is networks. I think QUENET, as you mentioned, is a very good network, but networking in general, and I liked your examples also via social media, LinkedIn and others, we can even go further now in networking virtually as we do. And we are part of QUENET, a couple of our colleagues as well. So nice to hear your example also from Latin America and your personal one. Laura and others mentioned, thank you very much, what the role of data can play and what can be measured can be done. And the IEA is looking in particular on that data and measurement of women in energy and women in clean energy transition. And Joël, thank you very much. You're a part of our diversity group within the IEA and part of a long career. So hearing what companies are doing, I think in your case Total, but also other energy companies have started to do and are pursuing is quite impressive. And not only the role of senior leadership, but also middle managers, which is also true here in the IEA. I must say I'm really grateful for all the work done for all in general in companies, but as I said in IEA for middle manager. So thank you very much for all these excellent example and insight when we drive this agenda. The IEA has, as the ED, our executive director, mentioned a mandate from our members to go ahead to work on equality, diversity for all the good reasons you have said yourself. So we will, in the year ahead, continue with our work on disaggregated data in the gender and energy sector. And our EDC, Energy Data Center, Nick Johnson, is leading that work. And we are very grateful to continue to look in that with the help of our members. We heard the technology collaboration program C3E, and that is a really wonderful example of the co-chairs driven by governments like Canada, Sweden, Italy, to work on ambassadors' role, to work on data, and we are leading that as coordinator, and we are happy to continue that data collection work stream and best practices within C3E. And thanks also to Annette Hollas, who is a very active leader and chair of that group. Together with OECD in that wave, we are looking at collecting data on women in employment, entrepreneurship, decision-making roles, women in boards. It's remarkable that a number of companies even don't publish their number of women or men in boards, and we can guess why it's so. I think there are a number of companies who have 0 women in boards. So we are trying to look into that and look at best practices. Quite recently, a country I know quite well, Germany, is doing its best to have a minimum of women in board members. I know other countries Canada, and many others are much more advanced on that. So we are following that together with OECD to look at figures, but also at indicators on gender inventors of energy, which we would like to publish in the first half of next year. We're also planning a survey of our Energy Business Council, which is something which Fatih Birol had set up more than 10 years ago, which is our regular contact with more than 60 energy business leaders. And we would like to start a survey on what they are doing on corporate practices. And we will present these results once we have analyzed them and share the findings also next year. In our regular work, and many of you might know the World Energy Outlook and some other publication, we try to look at a dimension which captures also the gender dimension when we look at our scenarios. We are in contact with our energy efficiency team to look at how consumers and energy efficiency may impact women or men differently. And we certainly look at our Clean Energy Transitions Program, a major program to drive clean energy transitions in emerging markets and developing countries. What are the gender dimension in some of our key partners, which includes, by the way, India. So we try to put all that together next year. We would like to have a first progress report on the IEA Gender Initiative to be published in the next couple of months, which replies to the request of the mandate from our members. And as it was said, only what is measured can be done. So we continue that work. It cannot all be done over the next couple of months because some of the data need more time to dig in, but we will continue that work all over next year. So with that, I would like to thank you all, for the energy leaders from C-Suits, Madam Ambassador, to stay with us for the whole session, all the panelists today. I would also like to thank my team here at DG as the moderator, Claire Hilton, who had helped preparing that event, Etienne from IT. And I would like to say the last word, which I really like, a word of optimism. I've been myself 20 years in the job in energy and climate. So there is a reason to be optimist that not maybe fast enough, but there is a change coming up, and with the clean energy transitions. And I think there is a particular momentum and the recovery, sustainable recovery, to have also a better balance and equality and gender and diversity in the energy sector. So thank you for now. We are very grateful for all your input and hope to see you very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.